Welcome to Fright Night.
Welcome to Random Movie Reviews. I'm Nathan, and today I'll be talking about Fright Night. Well, we are at the tail end of Spooktober. It's sad, I know, but I had a pretty great Spooktober, speaking for myself. I watched a lot of great movies, some movies that I revisit every Spooktober, such as the one I'll be talking about today. Some movies that I watched for the first time this month, like Alien Romulus and I Know What You Did Last Summer / Urban Legend and The Stepfather. A lot of good stuff. But I did save one of my personal favorites for last, and that is the movie Fright Night. A film that is quite beloved by many a horror fan, especially 80s horror fans. The 80s had a surprising amount of vampire movies that came out around the time. There's, of course, Fright Night, and then there was The Lost Boys, which is the other most popular vampire movie. But that one's probably more popular than Fright Night. The Lost Boys is one that's grown on me quite a bit. I remember the first time watching that movie being like, it's all right, it's okay. Not as good as a lot of people say that it is, but I like it enough. But every time I've revisited it, I've just enjoyed it more and more. It is very different from Fright Night and most other vampire movies, and that's kind of what I like the most about The Lost Boys. There was, of course, Near Dark as well. A very unique take on vampires featuring a killer performance from Bill Paxton. There's the movie Once Bitten, the vampire comedy with Jim Carrey, which I don't think is very good, but a lot of people love that one. There's a movie called Vamp, which I've never seen before. And then there is also the sequel to Fright Night, which I've also never seen, Fright Night Part 2, that I just saw is free to watch on YouTube. So I should probably watch that movie because I am curious because our two lead actors from this movie do come back into that one. So I am curious about that. But enough about that. We got to talk about the OG Fright Night, a movie that is kind of a beautiful combination of 80s horror and the classic gothic horror of the 1950s and early 60s, the Hammer horror films. In fact, one of the characters in this movie, Peter Vincent, who's played by Roddy McDowall, that name is kind of a tribute or an homage to Peter Cushing and Vincent Price, two classic horror movie icons. So this movie is a combination of both the 80s horror and both the old school Hammer horror films, and they culminate together beautifully, creating a very unique, fun, spooky, and delightfully cheesy horror movie. Fright Night features one of my favorite premises for a movie ever. A teenager lives next door to a vampire, and he knows that he's a vampire, but nobody else believes him. And in an act of desperation, in order to save himself as well as his mom, and then later on his girlfriend, from being killed or turned into vampires by this vampire, played amazingly by Chris Sarandon. In an act of desperation, he turns to old school horror movie star / television host Peter Vincent, who is kind of in a down point in his career. He's a bit of a wash up. He gets fired from his job, and they end up working together in order to try to kill this vampire. The movie, rewatching it, I forgot how much the movie takes its time to properly build up the stakes to the story. The character Charlie, played by William Ragsdale, who gives a really great performance in this movie. Almost the first 2 acts of the film is him just trying to convince both Peter Vincent as well as his friends that, no, this guy next door is a real vampire, and we got to do something to stop it. And there's that great scene where both his girlfriend and then Ed, we're going to talk about Ed. I got some hot takes on the character of Evil Ed. They go over to Peter Vincent's house and they're like, look, our friend is losing it. He thinks there's a vampire next door to him. Can you just humor him? You know, we'll stage a thing in order to prove that he's not a vampire. What's kind of strange about that scene, though, is that we've already saw the scene where Charlie gets attacked in his own home by Chris Sarandon. Jerry Dandridge is his character's name. Very unique name for a vampire. Probably an alias because he's been around for probably centuries at this point. There's that scene where he already goes into the house And he threatens Charlie. He shows his true vampire form. Charlie stabs him in the hand with the pencil, and it's all smoking. And so Charlie knows it's a vampire. There's nothing that you're gonna do to convince him that he isn't a vampire. So that scene almost feels like it should have come earlier, before the attack, in order for it to have had impact. But regardless, there's the great scene where Peter Vincent looks in his mirror, and then he sees that there's no reflection. That dude is a fucking vampire. And so he's obviously shaken. Charlie is shaken. And then the plot really takes off once Evil Ed turns into a vampire by Jerry. And then his girlfriend gets under the hypnotic spell of Jerry at the dance club, which is a great scene. And then we get to one of the craziest third acts maybe in horror movie history. Not scary. I mean, that's the thing about this movie. It's not like a scary movie. It's certainly not by today's standards. Does that make it a bad movie? Absolutely not. It fits that vibe that I want for October specifically. I mean, I watch horror movies all year round. In fact, a few months leading up to October, I rewatched the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I rewatched The Exorcist, and so I'll watch horror movies whenever I feel like it. But for Spooktober specifically, I want to watch movies that fit what I like to call spirit Halloween vibe, which means spooky but fun, kind of campy, and delivers the goods. And what I mean by goods, I'm talking goop, I'm talking blood, I'm talking cool monster effects, I'm talking Evil Dead 2 type stuff, you know what I'm saying? And this movie gives us the goods, and it saves all the goods in the final act, which is just, it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. There's a great scene where Ed, who gets turned into a vampire, he also turns into a wolf. That whole scene is incredible. You know, Peter Vincent, is terrified, obviously, and gets a post from a staircase and turns into a stake and stabs him right in the chest. And then there's that whole de-transformation scene, which is incredible. Then there's Jerry's familiar, who I forget I don't know if he's a vampire. He's clearly some sort of creature. The movie doesn't really specify, or at least I don't remember it specifying. He gets shot, he turns into a goop monster, and then into a spooky skeleton. Just amazing stuff. It gives you all the vibes, it gives you all the entertainment. Now, it's not a perfect movie. It's a perfect Spooktober movie in the sense that I just said, where it delivers that fun campiness that I want during the month of October specifically. It doesn't hold up in terms of like the truly great 80s horror movies like The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, The Thing, right? John Carpenter's The Thing is maybe the most perfect horror movie there's ever been. It's not up there with Aliens or even The Blob, which I think is one of the best 80s horror movies ever. It's not quite that level. The special effects, as fun as they are, they're not seamless like they are in some of the movies that I just mentioned. But that's what adds to the enjoyment of the film. That's what I really, really love about it. I love that. I love the chemistry between Charlie and Peter. The way they actually have to depend on each other in the final act, and the fact that we spent so much time with these characters. And then when we get to the third act, we legitimately care about what's going to happen. I love that. And then we got to talk about Chris Sarandon, who, for my money, gives the best performance in this movie, and truly one of the great vampire performances in cinema. I would go that far. He's one of my favorite movie vampires. He has that perfect look. He's got those eyes that are like genuinely menacing and sinister, but also has that seductive quality, which is important for the plot point with him and Charlie's girlfriend. And I mean, that's one complaint I have about the movie. There's kind of a contrived plot element where Charlie's girlfriend very coincidentally looks exactly like a woman that was in Jerry's past. We see an old kind of Victorian era painting that I'm like, okay, that's a little on the nose. You didn't even need to add that plot element, because at this point he just likes toying with Charlie, and he could have just stolen the girlfriend and turned him into a vampire just to get back at Charlie. You didn't even need that plot point per se. It felt a little bit, on the nose, and it's just a little too convenient to the plot, in my opinion. And it's not like they explore the relationship prior. We don't know what Jerry's relationship was with this girl however many years ago, so it's not even that really crucial to the story. So that's kind of a nitpick. And then we get to my main nitpick with this movie, and I'm probably alone in this, but the character of Ed, who's played by Stephen Jeffries, is so fucking annoying, and he's annoying in a way that's not funny, and that it legitimately takes away some of my enjoyment from this film. Overall, I love Fright Night. I really enjoy it a lot, but he is quite grating all the way through. Like, from the first moment we meet Ed, he's like, "Hi, Charlie," hi, and it's just like, I hate this fucking guy. I remember I was watching this movie with a friend, and he almost wanted to turn it off because he's like, "Dude, that guy is so fucking annoying." I was like, "Dude, just push through it. Believe me, this movie's great." He ended up liking the movie, but still, I know what he's coming from. Evil Ed, I mean, it's one thing where once he gets turned into a crazy evil vampire and he's super annoying in a kind of weird, creepy, demonic way, that works. But even when he was a human, he was still just an annoying little shit. And I don't like his character. And I don't blame the actor. It's not his fault. It's the way the character is written, and it's the way the director, Tom Holland, wanted him to perform the character. I think he's a grating character. I think it is an annoying character. It's too much. It's too much of him just being a little shit. I don't like him. I like him when he turns into a vampire and he's like, being kind of crazy and weird and almost like an Evil Dead Deadite. I like that. And he should have been a little bit more sympathetic in the first half. He can be annoying, but they should have pulled back a little bit. Make him sort of likable. Make him kind of like an underdog character. That way, when he does turn into a vampire, there's kind of that, oh no, you know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of weight there, emotionally speaking and character wise. But yeah, other than that, I really do love this movie, and it's a movie that I have revisited every Spooktober for the past couple of years. It just feels right. I'm like, I gotta watch Fright Night. It delivers all the goods. It's fun. It's spooky. It's surprisingly brutal in terms of the violence. Like, at times you're watching this movie and it like feels like maybe like a PG-13 horror movie. But then when that third act kicks in and we get to see all the goods, as I like to say, then it really like earns that R rating. It's quite awesome. And is it better than The Lost Boys in terms of the best 80s vampire movie? It's hard to say. For me, it's like almost neck and neck, but they are by far the two best 80s vampire movies, in my opinion. But I want to hear from you guys. Let's get a debate going. Which vampire movie is the better vampire movie? Lost Boys or Fright Night? Or do you think there's another 80s vampire movie that's better than both of them? Mention it in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.